Hey everybody, welcome back to Matthew Kelly Pottery. I hope you are doing well. Today we're going to talk about making miniature pots. It's something I've hardly ever done before. A couple reasons. Number one, I hate centering a small amount of clay, and then if you're throwing them off of a hump of clay, it's a pain in the butt to try to get a flat bottom on them when you wire them off, but I found a cool technique to make that even more possible. And so I saw that on Instagram and I thought I got to try that. And when I did, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. It's not new, but it's new to me, and I wanted to share it with you all. So let's go. Throwing pots off of a hump of clay is not a new technique, just like this tool that I'm going to show you is not a new technique, but basically what it means is that you get to center or mostly center a larger piece of clay and then throw smaller pieces off the top of that hump of clay, hence the name throwing off the hump or throwing off a hump of clay. So this basically you can center a larger amount of clay and you don't have to actually perfectly center the whole amount of clay. You can actually just mostly center it and then cone up the clay, and at the very top where you cone it up, you can make sure that that portion of the clay is perfectly centered, and then you can start to throw pieces off that little section at the top and then cut them off, separate and form a new piece, and cut that off, so on and so forth, and just continue going forward with that. So just the basic instruction there in case you don't know what throwing off of a hump of clay means. And now we'll get into the details about the tool and how I use it. Alright, so here's a little screen recording of the Instagram reel that I found that inspired me to do this. So I went on the hunt for one of these tools. I knew I had a couple, but apparently this is the only one I could find in all of my studio because I don't normally use these tools. But I had one of these, and so I just took a drill bit and drilled a small hole in here and tied some fishing line to the end of it. It was probably about twice that long to begin with, and then I realized that I didn't need it that long because if you let that wire get too crazy around the piece and then you go to pull it out, you could just cut your piece in half instead of just cutting it free from the hump that you're throwing off of. So that's all I did. I just took one of these tools. It's probably one of the tools that just about every pottery shop has one of. I tied a piece of fishing line to the end, and then we're going to talk about how we use this. But I wanted to show you that first and just explain to you how I did that. Now, granted, the video that I saw, number one, that a lot of Asian potters, this guy's Korean, a lot of those throw with the wheel going in the opposite way that I throw. But he was still using this tool in his right hand to cut on the other side of the piece. And then he flipped it around, put the string in, and let it wrap around, and then pulled it out. I don't feel comfortable using my left hand with this tool on this side, so I realized I can use it in my right hand and make the kind of form the bottom of the piece and make the undercut. But then I need to switch hands, put the wire in a little bit, put the fishing line in a little bit, let go with my right hand, let it spin around, and then pull with my left to pull underneath the pot. That's the only difference that I had to make. I tried it with my right hand first and then realized, oh, wait a minute, the wheel's going the wrong way because it wasn't wrapping around the piece because of the way I had it. Now, if I put it on the back side, I could do that. I never thought about that. I could put it on the back side, pull it under a little bit, let go, and then pull out with my right hand. I need to try that. Just thought of that, never thought of that until now. But if you want to put it on, put the fishing line in front of you, you need to make sure that if you're throwing with the wheel going counterclockwise, that you put the string in front of you. You're going to let go with your right hand and then have the tool in your left to do that. So anyway, maybe we'll try the other way as I just mentioned here sometime. Now, I've already made a couple pieces, and but now I want to get into kind of an explanation of it, and then this B-roll that I filmed earlier will be part of the video at the end, where I'll just throw a few pieces and you can watch more of the process and just give it a shot yourself and see how it works for you. So let's I've already centered this hump of clay. We already talked a little bit about throwing off the hump in the voiceover for the first part, but now we're going to get to throwing a few more of these miniature pots. Now granted, you could center a smaller amount of clay. I don't know how much this was. It was probably 5 or 6 pounds that I centered. If you can't center that much clay, you could start by centering just a pound or two and still throwing several of these small vases off of that size hump as well. The main thing you have to do with this, one of the first things you have to do, separate a little bit of clay near the top of the hump that you've centered. Then when you go to open that clay ball, you want to make sure that you don't push your inside hand down too far, inside finger down too far, because if you do, or however far you push it down, you need to kind of have a way of keeping track of that, either by knowing how far your finger goes down inside and compare that to where you start the piece on the outside. Main reason for that is because if you go too far down on the inside and then you make this beautiful little miniature pot and then you use the wire and cut it off, you could have a hole going all the way through your pot. I know that because I've done it a few times. But if you center that and then start to pull, you can kind of see if I want to gauge, I can kind of hold my hand here, and then if I go on the outside, you can see that now that's coming down to there. So I have to go on the outside and go down a little bit farther than what I've gone currently to make sure that I have a bottom in this piece when I finish. Now granted, one thing I love about making miniatures is that it's so much easier to make all these like really ornate shapes because you don't have all that clay giving you a struggle to make these skinny necks and things like that. Now you still have to have enough clay there that it doesn't buckle when you neck it in and all that kind of thing. But the great thing is that the stress is not on the clay of collapsing when you go to make a shoulder like this as it would be with say 4 or 5 pounds. But also, like I said, there's just all different shapes of miniature pots you could make, and so I don't worry too much about getting the bottom shaped where I'm going to use the tool. I just kind of get the top portion, and then what I'm going to do is clean that off. So then I grab my tool. I like to get the end of this a little bit wet. I'm going to use that tool to basically kind of use this edge to kind of shape the bottom kind of like maybe quarter of the pot. And then when I get low enough, then I'm going to turn this down to make the spot where I'm going to cut. So once I get down there, now I'm going to turn. Oops. Once I get this tool down there, I'm going to turn it over, and that kind of makes my undercut where I'm then going to put where I'm then going to put the fishing line. Let it wrap all the way around. So you want to start the fishing line in underneath the piece. Let go with your right hand in this case, let it wrap around a little bit, and then pull with your left to pull that fishing line back through. So I can get it started. You can see it start to wrap around. Then I pull with my left hand. Once it's wrapped around like that, and then you pull, that pulls the fishing line the rest of the way through underneath the piece, and you can see how level that is where it pulled that wire through because it's wrapped around evenly all the way around. And you can tell that I didn't cut through the bottom of the piece because there's not any water or not a wet spot sitting there. Of course, I look down in the piece just to make sure as well. So then you can just kind of form back up another little piece of clay on top of the hump, and you can make them larger than this. I'm making whatever size. You can make them smaller than this. There's been a kind of a fad going around, people using those miniature wheels, throwing little bitty pots. Which is neat, but I think it'd be cool. I think it's a lot easier, and I think it's cool to make miniatures this way. Now that I've figured this technique out, like I said, I've made small pots before, but I either hated the idea of centering that little amount of clay, or I just kind of hated the fact that it was really hard to get an even cut taking these off of the hump. I recently taught a class at one of our local high schools, and they were interested in miniatures. And this is before I saw this technique, and I was showing them how to just hold the wire underneath the bottom and just kind of, as the wheel spun, try to push the wire through evenly. And none of those came out even, and I was like, yeah, there's got to be a better way to this. So then that video came across my Instagram feed, and I'm like, wow, let me try this out. So anyway, so here's another little piece. Let me now take my oops, I put the tool on the wrong side. So now take that, wet the tip of that tool. I want to start to work my way down with that, and then once I get far down as I want to go, curve that tool over and make me a spot to cut from. Now, like I said, push that wire in just a little bit, let go with my right hand. Once it gets around, pull that under, and then I can pick it up, and there we go. It's got a flat bottom. Alright, let's try one where I do it, keep the tool in my right hand and cut from the back side. This will be interesting to see if this works. Alright, now we're going to cut the same way with my right hand. Get to the bottom. I'm going to keep it in my right hand, and I'm going to pull it in from the back side, which is a little bit harder to see. Let it wrap around. Pull. And it worked. Hey, look at that. I don't have to switch hands, but it is a little bit harder to see where I'm adding the wire in. But like I said, the main thing I love about this is that you can see that's perfectly flat where I remove that pot from the hump, and it just makes making miniature pots so much easier, so much quicker, so much more fun. And yeah, anyway, one of the also things that I loved about making miniatures, the ones that I made actually at school, I put in my recent online sale. And when I fired those, I fired them all in my gas-fired kiln, and when I fired those, I was just amazed. I've always been amazed when I have a small piece that has tons of kind of action or tons of glaze effect happening on a small piece. I just think it's amazing to see that much kind of texture and depth in a glaze and just things happening on a small piece. And so one of those, it was really the first one that sold on my online sale as well, is really one that I was like, I ought to keep this because it was so much happening. I'll show you guys a picture of it here. But it is just really cool to see how much was happening on a small surface like that, and it's just so much fun to make those. Now that I can make them so that they don't take a ton of time to clean up the bottom and to get them flat, it's like, oh, okay, cool. I don't mind making miniatures now, and it's really fun as a little demo to watch for people to watch as well when you get to see these little bitty pots made. I also love the fact that you can do such great shapes, like I said, out of this amount of clay, because you don't have to worry about the clay collapsing on itself. I'm going to try the right-handed thing one more time here, pulling from the back side, get it started, let go, and boom. So it does work with my right hand. I just have to start from the back side. So that one I got a little thin, so it was a little harder to pick up. So I also made some lidded pieces this way. I will wait and work on those a little bit more before maybe we'll make another video where I show you how I make little miniature lidded pots. That'd be great for another video. But anyway, thank you guys for being here. You guys enjoy the rest of this video of little clips or the B-roll I took earlier of making the miniature pieces and how I wire them off. And give it a shot if you're interested in making little pots, or even if you're not. A lot of the Asian potters that I've seen use this technique to make all kinds of things, not just miniatures. Most of my pieces I leave to dry on the bat. I don't wire them off, and so I don't use this kind of technique for much anything else. But even if you regularly throw off the hump and you were just needing a better way to cut something off the bat, I just think it's a really great technique. And obviously, like I said, it's not new, it's just new to me, and I was kind of fascinated by it, so I wanted to share it with you all. So anyway, I hope it helps. Thank you all for your support. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, have a good day.